welcome back to This
Thank
Lyric,
you.
That Truth podcast. I've got Abby Zeerip back with me.
Yep.
Okay, the front desk ladies and I were trying to decide if this is your third time back or your fourth.
Fourth.
She said fourth. I said, I think it's just third. And then she goes, well, you would know better than me. And so then I got
like, did I?
It's your fourth.
Yeah, no, because we
time
talked about the walk program.
Oh, yeah.
We talked about back to school and Christmas.
Oh, yeah,
so
we
this
did.
is fourth.
We did. I thought the walk program and volunteering at your kid's school.
Yep.
And what was the other topic we talked about?
Back to school, like we did like new rhythms for back to school and some of those things. And
I
then Christmas.
meshed that all into one. I want to throw it back because you gave such a great tip about Christmas.
Oh,
that I want to throw it back.
Let's talk about it.
And just remind people. And then we can also link the other episodes that you've been a part of with us, because we always get such great feedback when you're on the show.
So fun. I love doing it. Thank you for having me.
You said that the way that you pay for Christmas is that you have an Amazon account that gives you
like the Amazon credit card, so you get points.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
And then come November or December, you have all of these points because you even buy things like toilet paper and basic things.
We're all for the points. All for the points.
And then by the time it comes December, you've got all these points that you
$1,200 worth of stuff to buy on Christmas.
$1,200.
I mean, I spend a lot online.
No. I mean,
but it's toilet paper. It's,
totally.
like we have a birthday in our house. So it's like balloons. It's all the things that I try to run through Amazon because you get your higher percentage back.
I thought that was so smart. I didn't sign up.
I don't do a lot of smart things, but I got a few.
I didn't sign up for the Amazon credit card, but I thought it was really smart for people that are more with it than I am. I love that idea.
I mean, I've only got one, so like all the points are funneled into one area.
Got
We're
it.
currently working on a house project, and I'm like, should we get a Menards credit card? Like, would there be kickbacks? And Dave's like, no, we'll just stick with this one. I was like, because I feel like you spent a lot of money on Menards.
My husband told me that he is establishing a new department in our home, the Dole. Okay. Dole department. And I was like, Dole department? And he said, Department of Labarge Efficiency. And I was like, no. So kind of he's going Elon Musk on the budget. What was this for? What was that for?
I would love a swing back to that in like a month or two. Be like, how is this going?
Yeah.
What are we excelling at?
I'm not participating. I'm not participating in
project.
Dole. When I was a kid, I had a dream of having a wallet like my mother's that when you opened it up, it was chock full of credit cards.
Oh,
I wanted a credit card for everything. Like that's how I visualized, my future.
Menards card. Just like all the cards.
The plastic life.
Yeah.
And then I married, my husband, and he was like, no,
he's like,
debit
hard
card.
Hard left on this. We're not doing this. Hard left, baby. Hard left.
On my other podcast, I was talking about how my mother taught me that when you go to Meijer, you put half of the amount in your check on a check, and then you pay for the other half in cash. And that way you're sort of maneuvering money around so it doesn't look like you spent that much at the grocery store.
Okay.
And so I pulled that when I was first married to Dave.
Because you didn't want him to know how much you spent?
Totally. Yeah.
Oh, see, I go the other way. Do I want $20 cash back? Yes, please.
Yeah.
I will take $20 and put that in my pocket for the other things I don't want you to know.
This was like 25 years ago, and he still brings it up to this day.
Oh, that one hurt deep. That one hurt deep.
Woo! Listen, Dole.
We learned very quickly that that's not a safe place for us to be together. Like the shopping together is like, why do we need that? I was like, we are not going to go over every item in this cart as I put it in. If I think we need to, you say yes. Yes. That's not your job in this.
I do a thing for my girls. I have 3 daughters, and every Valentine's Day. Oh, this is what happened. This is the backstory. I had a surgery on Valentine's Day a couple of years ago. And it was a no big deal surgery, but I didn't know if I was going to make it on the other side. I was being dramatic. There was no reason for me to suspect I wouldn't come out the other side. But I bought them each a, gift for Valentine's Day with a love letter and a whole thing.
Oh yeah. I got all mine set at home for,
Yep. And so that's then became a tradition. Every Valentine's Day they get something. So I was telling Dave, I'm like, I'm going downtown. I'm gonna get them the cross earrings from, the store downtown that I like. And he's like, well, we should sit down and talk about it. I'm like, I don't have time to talk about it. No. It's just going to happen. It's Valentine's.
I told you.
Friday.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
I mean, before I did it.
Yes.
I didn't ask for your opinions. I at least just told you though.
I can kind of understand what's going on in the government. I think that they have two personalities of how they're looking at the budget. You know?
It's give and take, a little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit of I'm going to slide a 20 and a little bit of you should tell me about the 20. Okay. I mean, we talked about car money one time. I almost spent all my car money and I was like, oh, I got to find ways to get more car money. How do I get this back in here?
Last week, I had worked on an extra project, and so I got an extra check for that project.
That.
I know, and I had. You don't get a physical check very often, but I did get a physical check for this, and I was like, set this in the pile. This is for the new couch, and he was like, "There's no pile for a new couch. There's the one pile."
The logic sometimes that they come at us with, it's like, listen, in my head, there's a pile. And I've decided this money's for that couch. It's like, or I could just pay it with this bills and we could use it. No, this is couch money. Yeah. Couch money.
Dole, head of Dole over there. He's like, it all go in one pile, and then we'll look comprehensively and see if we have the money for the couch.
It's such a good thing, but at the same point, when they say things like that, it's like, you look like a dullard when you say things like that. Like, enough. Enough. You're really sucking the fun out of everything.
Now, back to this whole Valentine's thing with my girls. Yeah. Oh, and then we buy my son baseball stuff. So the girls get like cross necklaces and like this necklace is one we all got last year, and he gets like a baseball bat or something,
sliding mitt, all the things. I'm saying my oldest is his birthday tomorrow on Valentine's Day, so I have all kinds of baseball stuff wrapped and hidden under my bed. So we have like the Valentine's thing and the birthday things, but it's all baseball.
So you go big with Valentine's too.
Well, I feel like I have to because I don't know, it's Valentine's Day and I love them, but also we have to celebrate a birthday. So we do like, here's your gifts for Valentine's Day. That is the 5 minutes of the day. It's Valentine's Day, and everything else is about your brother's birthday. Because, as he gets older, nobody's going to care that it's your birthday, honey. Everyone else is going to be celebrating Valentine's Day.
Oh, man.
But it's your birthday. So like you get this, we're trying to make it all about you. So I've never done anything romantic on Valentine's Day since becoming a mother, because I had to go to celebrate my mom-iversary, as we say, from when I became a mother, my mom-iversary. And so that's my mom-iversary date. So we make that about him and his birthday. And then I texted my husband today. I was like, I didn't get you a card. It was $9, the one I wanted, and you didn't want that, and I didn't want that. So how about we just go out for dinner in 2 weeks? And he's like, I love you with my whole heart. I was like, I got you, babe.
Love languages.
No so card. Good. I was like, I love them, but like I can let it go. It was $9. I'm not spending it.
When I was buying my girls their gift, I also picked up a new pair of jeans for myself. And I told the gal there, she knows me very well. Yeah. And I was like, I'm just going to tell my husband that these are my Valentine's present from him. Yeah. And I wasn't. I was just going to take them out and wear them.
Make you feel better.
Mm-hmm. And then I get
and
home.
Hide the tags. Yeah. I mean, I would never do that, honey. I don't know.
Well, I get home and then I've got this huge bag, and I said, and I bought myself some jeans, and he goes, you can consider those your Valentine's
You're like, great. We were on the same wavelength on that. Perfect.
So my oldest daughter, I have waffled on this. My oldest daughter is married and she doesn't live at home anymore. Yeah. She lives with her husband in a different state. And I was like, well, since she got engaged, then I stopped giving her the Valentine's presents because she has an official Valentine, right?
That's his job now. You got to do that. Oh, sorry.
Yeah. It's kind of interesting with transitions, like what you cut out, where's
the new line, where's the shift.
Yes.
It's huge.
And then there were 3 pairs of these cross earrings, and I was like, my instinct was to buy her, and I could still go back and do it and just send them to her, because I'm not opposed to like sending her a fun thing every now and again.
We love to show people how much we love them. That's huge.
True. Yeah. But you and I are talking today about those transitions of life, because you've got some.
I got a whole bunch. We had the go to the high school and talk about all the high school transitions and like signing up for classes.
Is that your first one?
My first one. So we have
when
that
you sit in the auditorium,
and my eyes, like my husband and I were like, oh my goodness, this is so many options, and trying to understand. And because we are who we are, we had the 3 of us sitting there, and I had my paper, and my husband had his paper with his clipboard, and then my son had his phone out. And my notes were things like, ooh, I want to talk to so-and-so about this. Dave's notes were how many credit hours things were. And Archer's were where to buy snacks. I was like, oh, we're quite a crew here. But so we have that transition to high school, and we have a transition to middle school.
Ooh.
So we have like these big jumps in our family. And it was like, that was what was going on. I was like, okay, let's talk about some transitions, because you've transitioned a bunch of kids. Like you're further ahead with me, of me, than like those transitions and how those go. But there's like terror in the transitions, and there's like thriving in the transitions, right? So there's like both parts of it.
My thing always, and when I talk to other moms, I always say, keep in mind, you're growing a 21-year-old.
Yeah.
You are not growing a freshman in high
No.
school or a sixth grader
No.
or whatever. I think as moms, we get so focused on like the thing that's right ahead of us and very, very involved and
For
invested.
sure.
And credit hours are important
Yep.
and where the snacks are is important,
Yeah.
you know, and all the things.
I feel like, good notes, buddy. You took good notes.
But you have to kind of see it as a comprehensive whole because it does, like parents say, go so fast.
It really does. And it's amazing to me how, like, I thought it was going to be one way and it's something different.
Tell me how you thought it would be and how it is.
I was expecting, like, you're right, my experience is my high school. Well, that's 20 years ago, so it barely counts for what's going on now.
Rub it in.
Well, I mean, we're all young at heart. We're all young at heart. But I was expecting, like, the path that I had kind of thought, like, we had talked with our oldest Archer about what he was thinking, what he was doing, and how I thought we were going to do that. I assumed, I had no evidence of this, that I was going to come up against a few roadblocks because what we wanted to do was a little bit different. And I got to the meeting and I was ready, right? Like, I was chest up, like, here we go. We're going to push for something that's maybe not conventional or maybe is different than everybody else. And we had a conversation with the principal and she was like, how can I help? What do you want to do? And she was so open to hearing all these ideas and they actually panned out wonderfully. And I left kind of that meeting going, okay, I had no clue what I was headed in for, but I assumed it was going to be so hard. And it was fairly easy.
Mm-hmm.
And then 2 nights ago, we took a left turn. And now that sweet boy might want to do something totally different.
Oh, yeah.
And it was
as
like,
they do.
Oh, and in true teenage boy fashion, it's 9:45 at night. Mm-hmm. We're exhausted.
That's when they want to
talk.
That's
when they want to talk. And so, I'm embracing this like middle mom era of, these stages. Mm-hmm. But when he went back upstairs, we kind of settled the conversation of, you know what, this is a great conversation for next week. Mm-hmm. Like, we cannot solve any of this week. Mm-hmm. Everything can change. Let's take some time to think about it. I looked at my husband. I was like, I feel like that went better than what I would have assumed. Mm-hmm. Because again, I was, ramped up and ready to go hard against whatever the system was. And it went really easy. And then I had this left turn of him coming downstairs saying, I'm not really sure I want to do that. And my eyes were so big and, Dave's probably watching Michigan Out of Doors on his computer or something like, what's going on? What? And just that left turn of like, okay, just because it's a left turn doesn't mean it's wrong. Mm-hmm. Doesn't mean the plan isn't good. We just need to reevaluate. And I have the lyrics right here of the song that I chose, but it was Oceans by Hillsong. And it was, Spirit, lead me where my trust is without borders. Let me walk upon the waters wherever you would call me. Take me deeper than my feet could ever wander, and my faith will be made stronger in the presence of my Savior.
Spirit, lead me where my trust is without borders. Let me walk upon the waters wherever you would call me. And take me deeper than my feet could ever wander, and my faith will be made stronger in the presence of my Savior.
And when I picture that, right, you put the word picture to it, like God calling us out into a place that looks rough, looks unknown. And if you make that step, the water is calm. So when I kind of thought about that further, I was like, I was ready to go into this conversation like, my kid needs this. Mm-hmm. And it was a piece of cake. And I just had to step out. Mm-hmm. And making sure, like Dave and I talked later about how we stepped out very intentionally. Because change and transitions are hard and they're not always fun. Mm-hmm. But looking back at that and looking at our transition to middle school and our transition to kindergarten, right? Like, that was a huge transition for me. I remember bawling at the kitchen sink doing dishes. And my husband's like, are we changing schools? Are we homeschooling? What is all this? And I was like, I'm just not ready. I'm just not ready. And I cried and cried and cried. It was, I wasn't ready to be on the school schedule, right? That jump.
Yep.
But those transitions, if you push into them, they're easier, even when you're terrified of them. If you push into them, I was so surprised at how easy it was when I was just ready to go. Like, I'm going all in instead of going like, well, we'll see. I'm not really sure. And that's who my personality is. That's not everyone's personality, but pushing in transition, I have found to be easier. Like you transitioned a whole bunch of kids. What did you do?
I feel like I'm good at transitions, though.
I mean, I'm a changer. I love the change.
Yeah, I always kind of feel like I have this conversation a lot with friends of mine that have kids in the same age range as my oldest, who have launched and have moved away. A lot of that is moving away. And I am so terribly proud of my oldest daughter because she's thriving and she's doing really well and she's growing up and she plans on coming back, to our hometown someday, but who knows what will happen. That I don't want her to, even though I miss her, I don't want her to be with me. I don't want her to be in my little town.
You recognize that's the stage she's with her husband.
Yes.
Like those things, like you are your family now.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I feel happy about it because I feel like that's a mark of success. Like we grew a 21-year-old person who made her own decisions and, is thriving on her own. With our oldest still living at home, she's just launching into her career. I can kind of see she's not quite ready. We're a couple months away from her launching, out of the house into her own thing. And so I'm just kind of you have some tension, right? When older kids are at home.
Well, we actually learned that at a parenting class once. There will always be tension in transition.
Yes.
And so when Archer came down the stairs and I'm looking at him like, are you kidding me? We have talked this to death and now we're going to left turn and do something else.
We had it all settled.
Why? Okay. Why? But that tension, when we learned in a parenting class that you will always have that tension in transition because the lines of, like the elementary years where it's like, this is what we do. This is where it is. Everyone's in their lane. It's good. But when you're changing lanes, those lines blur.
Yep.
And what I need to be responsible for and what he needs to be responsible for are different. And I actually kind of tell myself, when you started this podcast, you had like a super far runner guy. Dan
Peerbolte.
And he said, it's going to be hard. There will be times when it's hard. And I'm a runner, so there are times when it's very hard. But instead of going, oh my gosh, it's so hard, this is terrible, saying, oh, here it is.
Yeah. I knew you would come.
Part.
I knew you would come.
Yeah.
Welcome. What are you going to teach
me? And you're like, okay, we're to that part now.
Yes.
And so as Archer went back upstairs, I was like honoring the fact of like, oh, I'm so glad I have that mentality. And I learned that from, I had never heard that mentality before. But just saying like, okay, we will have conflict in transition. It's not wrong. It's not bad. It's normal.
Right.
And here it is. And so I just I think I was more easy to open to hear those conversations because I definitely came down to the like, I hear you. I understand what you're saying. But like, can we talk about it next week? Can we, I need to sit on this because we have the time. And, I think there was probably from the school, like, we need to make these decisions and do it. I'm like, we can be flexible, buddy. Like, we can call the school and make a change. That's fine. But just taking some time to step back and go, okay, we're just going to sit in this uncomfortable transition and not just try to rush through it. Because I'm a rusher througher.
Because it's painful.
Yeah, I don't like that.
Just want to finish
yeah,
it
I'm
up.
like, so we're good. We're just going to, okay, moving on.
I think at that age with parenting, what it is you are still very much guiding them. But you're not the only one making decisions for them. You're inviting them.
It's a weird we.
It's weird.
Because in all the years of doing hair, I never enjoyed it when high school seniors would be like, we decided I'm going here. And I always thought like, well, but it's kind of your decision. Like the we, like, but I say we all the time. And I'm like, okay, well, here's the humble pie that I need to eat because we, the three of us, have talked about things. We, the three of us, have talked about, I mean, even outside of school, sports, piano, some of those other things. It's a 3-person discussion because you are still like the coaching phase of parenting, right? Like I'm still in charge of what we're doing, but also you get to go out there on the court and do your thing.
Have you ever talked to somebody that was really pressured by their parents to go on a certain path that they themselves did not want to go down and they felt pressured into it? It takes a long time for that person to kind of get through that. Lots of times they're people pleasing. They want to please their parents. They want to do what their parents want. And then, hopefully they can get to a place where they find their own path. But I get that struggle on the parent side of it too, because you can also see your kids and you can also see their strengths and their weaknesses. And so you're sort of observing from a different perspective going, but wait a minute.
Well, and you're like, highlight this thing that you're missing.
Yeah.
Because, you're focused over here. Because there was a few discussions about what friends were going to be in what classes. And it was like, okay, but when we get to high school, that's not a big part of how we decide classes. And with
it is if you're a girl.
Well, yeah, but even with a boy, like right, our kids do Spanish immersion, so that's a very small group of people, and so they've always been together. So this like breaking free is new, and we had to point out different things, and he was like, "Oh, okay, well, I guess now I want to just keep the class." And I was like, "Oh, baby, okay, another left turn."
Here's
so just
another
letting it sit in it.
Here's another bit of advice when you encounter this, because you will.
Yeah,
your child will come home after the first day of the new classes. If I've had this with my daughters, weeping. I have no friends in my class. I have no friends in my lunch. I have no,
Should I be taking notes because it's going to happen to me.
Yes, it is. And you can get real devastated in that moment and believe them and be like, oh, this is terrible.
Who do I need to call? I'll fix it.
Nobody to talk to. And you can't. You can't.
And, I was explaining to him, I was like, you'll have 4th hour friends and 6th hour friends. They might not be your Friday night friends.
Right.
But you'll have your people in your classes.
Then what you do is you encourage them. You say, well, then you're going to have to work on approaching somebody, asking them to sit with you at lunch. My daughter, who's 16, sophomore in high school, that was, the story, no friends. What are we going to do?
Yeah.
And the most beautiful, amazing thing happened. She approached people, started sitting with them at lunch. She has now new friends, a new interest, and new everything, right?
I remember that from my high school years too. Like, just like, oh, that was my friend in that class. Great person, wasn't my Friday night friend, but enjoyed the time that I had. So I was explaining that to him, like, we need to make that transition that way. But even back in kindergarten, like that transition to, okay, I have one in school, but I have some in naps, right? To just like overall the transitions of parenting, they're very, very different, but yet you have to push into them because you can't run away from them. You have to push in.
I think that I'm a part of this too. We get real devastated about minutia details that feel like they're going to ruin our life.
Yep.
The sophomore who didn't make varsity but made JV, devastating. Or, and I'm just coming up with scenarios.
Yeah.
The no friends in the class, devastating. Yeah. Didn't get into that college, devastating.
Well, but that's another thing about transitions is you can't catastrophize everything.
Everything. Right.
Like, I'm a real find the positive kind of person.
Yeah.
And so like taking that left turn, like really, I had one time a very good family friend. One time I said, oh, I had a terrible day. And he goes, the whole day? Was the whole day terrible? Or do you have some rough moments? And so I'm like, okay, it was a rough moment. I was like, it was not, it was a very bad hair color I did very early in my career. It was not good, but it was a moment in my day.
Yeah.
And I had to acknowledge that the rest of my day was not shot. Did I wake up and have a great morning up until that? For sure.
Yeah.
Okay. So it wasn't a bad day.
My daughter has been talking to me about this, my oldest daughter. They have this thing going around and they'll say to each other, people your age used to go off to war. Right? Yeah. Are you going to war? No, you're not going to war.
Did someone say you're of age? I'm going to put you on a ship and send you
to
Nope.
This is what our grandparents dealt with. We
Mm-hmm.
did a bad job at our job that day.
We're not. That was a rough moment. Okay. It was a rough moment.
No one lost their life.
Nope.
I get that.
No,
I know.
you don't have to protect your neighbor, your person next to you, literally, physically, everything.
Right. Oh, transitions.
Yeah. It's such a exciting thing though. I love like you said, you're a good changer, right? Isn't that what you said? Like that push into something new, like how exciting that is to think, I'll have a high schooler and a middle schooler and an elementary school.
You get to experience all the little things.
And I thought like having them all in the one building was like, oh, this is my lane, right? This is my mom lane. But as I see them move out, I was like, you know what? I'm going to pick up sewing when everyone's done with elementary school. And I have so much more time. I have sewing aspirations. I've done sewing. I've done it. I just haven't done it in forever. Like, if you want me to fix your shirt, I can probably do that. But like quilts, that's my next thing.
You're going to learn it.
Like my transition is like from being a mom who has to be around every minute of every day to like the freedom to sit in the basement for 2 hours and sew things.
Do you want the good news or the bad news?
Both.
Both. Sadly, what happens is as your children are getting older, you yourself are getting older.
But that's a sitting thing.
And your body gets older.
Great.
I can't explain it. I used to paint furniture. There was no better day than when I found like an old dresser on the side of the road.
Work.
Yeah, I put down the seats in the minivan and I hauled that thing home and I like repainted that whole thing.
Good for you.
Oh, if I saw a piece of furniture on the side of the road, I would drive
Did you like tap into local mailmen? Like if you see anything laying around, just shoot me a text.
We had a specific kind of minivan that I could very easily one-handedly like pop those seats down into themselves so that I just had this big space to haul all this stuff.
I just picture you turning into the Hulk to just lift those things.
But you know what, me at 50, if I see a piece of furniture,
you're like somebody young's going to do great things with that.
I'm not even looking at it.
Well, that's what I think sewing, right? Like I will do less things. I'll be like, I'm going to sit here and drink tea, maybe watch a show. Well, I mean, I'm not great with the math, so I'd have to like be like, show off. I have to focus on the numbers and then have Dave check them later. But that's like my next step.
Your engineer husband is going to be the one that's going to be determining where the pieces fit together.
I was talking yesterday at work with a coworker in both of our drivers training, right? Like, oh, that's a whole nother transition. When do we do it? And the kid plays all the sports and when are the practices and what are we, so we're talking it all through. And she's like, great, when you have all that information, can you just shoot it to me? And I was like, Dave will throw it in a spreadsheet and send it to you.
So here's what you've got to think to yourself. When you start to get overwhelmed, how is this going to work? How's this going to work? There's other kids that are as busy with sports and school and things that have figured out how to take driver's training.
I talked to another mom because I don't have a lot of like just ahead of me mom friends. I either have like a big jump or like my same age.
What are you trying to say?
Well, I mean, you're in the close to me, but not quite this close. You have a married daughter. Yeah. That's a long ways for my 13-year-old. Okay. That is a long ways.
That's true.
But just that like, okay, all right, that's the next thing. And making sure that I gather that information well, but also like, it's not going to war. So it's just driver's training. Figure it out.
Something I do mentally, and it's very along the same lines of what you're saying. If there's something that feels overwhelming, I can't figure out today. I think what part of my day am I the most with it? And for me, it's at about 8 o'clock in the morning. Okay. Like my best hours of productivity are from 7:30 to 9. Okay. That's where my ideas come. That's where I got the energy. And so I think to myself, I'm going to solve that problem tomorrow morning between 8 and 9:30.
Well, and that's what we said to Archer when he came down at 9:45. I was like, babe, we were in Chicago all day. My feet, like, this isn't the time. And we're not saying no, but let's, we talked about a few different aspects of that decision. I said, now let's sit on it and let's come back to it. It's his birthday tomorrow. So we have big birthday celebration. So I was like, my brain's full of that. But next week, let's sit down and find a time where the three of us can sit and talk that through. Because there was a few times it was like, well, I don't want to do it. And then we talked about, well, maybe I will do it. And I was like, the flippy floppy is also not helpful. So let's find a time where the three of us, and again, where I have to eat the humble pie and say, the we can make a decision or the we can talk it through. But yeah, I was just like, I'm not saying no. I just need to push you to a place where my brain has more room because I cannot plan your birthday party for all your friends and remember all the things and try to make this decision. So I was like, let's do that next week. And I also said, I was like, driver's training, that's a next week Abby problem. Not a today Abby problem.
And doesn't it feel like they're way too young to even be thinking about driver's training?
Yes, but I'm also in that like, if one of them could drive themselves around. And I love hauling my kids places. I got to drive to Caledonia multiple times a week and for sports, and I love it. But like if just one of them could drive themselves.
It's pretty awesome. It is pretty awesome.
It's got to be great.
And then you can have them pick up their siblings, which is also awesome. They never will want to. They never will be inspired to
doesn't that come with a like, hey, if I help with any of that vehicle situation,
you would think
you're my happy helper.
you would think. You would think their little brains would connect that.
No, not so much. Okay, I'll expect that transition and conflict in the future.
I've also noticed a difference. I've got 4 kids. And so I feel like I have 2 families. I feel like I have the olders and I feel like I have the youngers. And I have to remind myself at this stage of parenting, I still have to invest. I still have to give effort. We're talking on the radio show today about this one mom who did the most creative thing for her kids' Valentines. And like I wouldn't have any kind of energy at this point in my life to do that. But I thought it was awesome what she did.
Because she's like all elementary school kids and she's like young and
has the energy. Like
has the energy
you seem to have had in your life and maybe want to have in the future.
Celsius is pretty great in the energy drinks.
That's what I've got in my Stanley right now.
I got my soda too. I've got water for this girl. I went for a long run. No water. Straight to the soda. Straight to the soda.
So this mom, she took red Solo cups. And then she went to Target and she bought tissue paper that had little red hearts on it.
Okay.
And then
I'm already kind of out and like, that sounds like a lot of work.
I know. And then she shoved in the Solo cups like fruit snacks and Starburst and some candy in the Solo cup. Then she took a glue stick around the lip of the Solo cup, and then she placed the tissue paper over top. Then she did a second round, so 2 layers of the tissue paper.
You gotta plan ahead and warm up a hot glue gun.
Guess what she did then? Then she took a lighter and she lit the tissue paper, and it burned perfectly, and so it left like a perfect ring around the top. So the Solo cup was enclosed with the tissue paper on top, and the kids punched through it to get their candy.
Wow.
I know.
I was just feeling good that I remembered.
I know. But that's okay, right? Because it's okay that she does that.
Well, I think too, like my oldest first birthday party had party favors and a theme. And now I was like, yeah, no, we're done by 12. We don't do them anymore after 12. I'm out. Like, you can get my kids gifts. I don't care. I'm out by 12. Because it shifts. Like, my energy is more brain energy to think of the school and the other things. Whereas at 1, it was like, he's alive. Ta-da!
With my oldest, for her birthday, I got a mold of Dora the Explorer. She was obsessed with Dora the Explorer. And I made Rice Krispie treats, and I shoved them in the Dora molds. And then I got frosting.
They were multiple? Molds. Like little ones?
Yeah.
I was picturing like one big one. Oh, no.
They were mini Dora head molds, okay?
Yes, young Ceci.
And I shoved the Rice Krispies in there, and then I got my frosting, and I made all of them look like little Doras. Crazy. We still talk about this. Never since then. No other children.
I'll say I did chocolate-covered pretzels with like the sprinkles and the things. Never. No. By the time my daughter was turning 1, I was already pregnant with my 3rd, and I was like, we were in the garage, it was hot. I was like, here you go, ta-da! I like brought the napkin to the bakery. I'm like, just make it look like this.
I'm wondering if it's going to be the same thing with the sewing. I just am guessing. I don't know.
Oh, now you're putting bad vibes on my sewing. Come on.
I don't want to put them.
I made a quilt in high school. I took sewing class in high school because when you're not proceeding to college, you don't need to take AP classes. You can take sewing. So I did, and I made 1 quilt in my life. And I went from like expectations of, like, oh, I should take all the t-shirts. No, I'm not going to do that. Now it's like, I should find maybe a starter kit, you know, like, where do I get here's a quilt in a bag, and it's all cut for you because maybe math isn't your thing, and you can just sew them together, and there's no real way to do it. Like, the pattern's a suggestion.
I'll tell you what I'm going to do. Our producer Abby, she makes quilts,
an amazing quilt.
I'm going to get her to give you some lessons. That's what we'll do.
Well, I was like, we'll have to talk about it. Be like, Ab, I'm going to need all the ideas, and then the easiest one you got. And her energy and brain space. Could you pre-math it for me?
Maybe I will join your quilting club too. I'll just bring snacks. I will make little Solo cups with candy in them. And
I'll say my sewing machine is downstairs, like in my gym. So like I have a huge TV in front of it. So I fully expect to be like, ooh, I was watching the show. Definitely not watching my needles. Should be paying attention. Go.
Thanks for coming in today, talking about transitions. Of course, we would love to have you back. So we'll chat with you in a few months.
Sounds good. Thanks.
Thanks for listening to today's episode of This Lyric, That Truth. If you were inspired by today's conversation, feel free to share it with a friend and leave a 5-star review. If you're looking for more hope and encouragement in your music, download the Joy Media mobile app for free wherever you download your apps. I'm Ceci, and I so look forward to sharing more in-depth conversations with you as we talk about the lyrics that encourage us and shape our lives. Meet me back here next week for another episode of This Lyric, That Truth.